But at the heart of Springwatch, as usual, we have our live cameras on the nests, and our teams have been working extremely hard. They've been laying out 20 kilometres of cables, putting out 30 live cameras to bring us a fabulous variety of nests. These are some of them. Take a look.
Yeah, look at that. Very busy indeed. Lots of activity you can see there. But before we delve into all of those nests, I tell you what, let's take a look at that sunny one down in the right-hand corner. It's an oystercatcher. If you were watching our series last year, you'll know that we had one of these nests out on the beach, quite close to where we are. We followed that all the way through. This bird is obviously diligently sitting, presumably on 2 eggs, that typical clutch size. What a striking image there.
I love
white
that.
and blue.
It's a very pleasing nest, that, isn't it? I like it very much.
Sensational stuff.
I'm going to go to our oystercatcher that's off the nest now.
See the eggs. There they are, in the foreground there, look.
Actually, that's quite surprising, isn't it? That
Yeah.
there's nothing on that nest right now. But look what we have seen, because I really enjoy this nest. Because look, it's sitting calmly. Along comes the other adult. And look, it's sort of saying, oi, oi, get off, it's my turn. It's my turn. Look, just move, come on, I'm a bit impatient. You're sitting around, you dozed off. I've come here, you told me what time to get here, and I just need you to get off the eggs now.
Yeah, but look,
Go on,
I like this. When
go
it pushes it up, it's like it's got pins and needles. Look, it's like, oh,
I know the feeling. And the other one settles down on those eggs and starts to brood. I love that. We might see those hatching, you never know, next week maybe.
Indeed, we might. Joe Charlesworth over here. Joe, what have we got? We go live to the oystercatcher.
Look at the oystercatcher.
There, look at that.
It's
So
been
that's our
quite
nest.
sedate.
It is
this evening.
sedate. It's been very sedate. We've been watching it for 19 days of it being sedate. And of course, they normally hatch after 24 to 27 days, so keeping our eyes peeled on that, using those cameras that are on from 7 till 10 would be a good idea. Now, both of the adults have been quite dutiful when it comes to the duties of incubating. They come back in at regular intervals, a bit impatient, they'll push the others off. We have seen intruders, if you like, down on the beach. Here, one of the adults immediately gets up and leaves. That's because of the presence of a seeker deer. Is that a threat? Well, trampling, I suppose. In other parts of the UK, we have seen roe deer eating the eggs of woodlark, so it might happen, but the deer makes an exit. But then look at this. Just last night, the oystercatcher adult gets up, doesn't scream, slinks away quietly. Sometime afterwards, we spotted this, the foot of a fox. A fox is standing virtually on top of that nest. It doesn't eat the eggs. It sniffs and then moves on and disappears down the beach. And then, relatively quickly afterwards, once it's gone, one of the adult oystercatchers comes back in and settles down. What on earth is going on here? How can an animal with the nose of a fox not have sniffed that nest? Well, if you were watching last week, you'll know that Megan recorded the fact that some of these wading birds change their scent whilst they're incubating the eggs. So the adult has a different or not a smell. But clearly, in the absence of those, the eggs can't carry an odour either. Otherwise, the fox surely would have found them. OK, let's go live to our oystercatcher. It hasn't been the most dynamic nest, but look at it. It's striking. Absolutely sensational. Pied bird, blue sky, on the shingle there, Paul Harbour behind it. Both the adults have been very dutiful in their incubation duties. They've got 3 eggs, regular changeovers throughout the course of the day. The eggs are never left unattended. Of course, the adult that isn't incubating goes off to feed, probing in that soft mud for invertebrates, worms, mollusks, and so forth. We've seen danger at night. Fox came through very close to the nest on one night, came back again. And there you can see it slinking by. Not just once, but twice. Again, the fox came back. Adult moves away quietly into the night. And then the shadow of potential death looms. Looms, but then leans to one side. I don't know what's wrong with this fox's nose. Or is it an extraordinary adaptation of the adults where they've reduced their smell and that of their eggs? Not the only mammals to interrupt play at the oystercatcher's nest. We've had seeker deer down on the beach there. no real risk to the oyster catchers, maybe trampling, that would be highly unlucky. Now, we've been looking at those eggs for 22 days. We know they typically hatch between 24 and 27, so they are on the brink. We saw this evening, earlier on. Look very carefully. As this adult stands up, on the egg there you can see what appears to be a tiny white spot. It isn't a spot, it's a piece of missing shell. This egg is what we call pipping. The young bird inside is using its egg tooth on the tip of its bill to break out of that egg. Now, in species like oystercatcher, that's not a rapid process. That could take a day or so, actually, and there are 3 eggs in there. But it's clear that you should keep your eyes on this nest over the course of the weekend. Those cameras are available from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. You can find them on iPlayer, because I think by the end of the weekend, they will have gone.
Nice bird, Chris, nice bird, but not a nest, more of a scrape in the shingle, really.
Well, I tell you what, we have been getting a lot of action on our live wildlife cameras. Let's go to the Niway screen now. I mean, we've had some exceptional nests so far this series. So we've got over 30 cameras set up around site. What would you say is your favourite so far this series?
Oh, there's been so many good ones, hasn't there? So many good, so much death and destruction as well, which I know some people have been upset by. But my favourite, probably the oystercatcher.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. It's not a good nest. It's not the best nest, but I just think the fox coming right by it and not, pinning the eggs and not eating them 2, 3, 4 times, whatever it is now. It just sits out there in the open.
I mean, we can see
like
it there.
them.
I mean, it is just sitting out in the open.
Well, I like that. I like that.
Like
Sitting
that?
out in the open, see any danger, they're off straight away. The eggs are so well camouflaged that the foxes just walk by. So, yeah, I'd have to say the oystercatcher.
Start with the good news. Let's start with the oyster catchers, because we were predicting that those 3 eggs were going to hatch this weekend. Saturday at 12:45, you can see the adult bird is very restless. There's some pipping going on with those eggs, which means they've just started to hatch. And yesterday at 7:11, we get the first glimpse of a little chick that has clearly hatched out of the egg. Just to prove the point, the adult flies off with it, leaving one very soggy, vulnerable little chick. Second egg starting to pip. You can see a little hole in there. She settles down again, but at 10:53, we get a glimpse of 2 of the chicks, 1 egg still to hatch. What happens next is quite comical, because look, I'm going to say that's the female. I don't know, I'm saying it's the female on the chicks. He comes along, look, she's like, no, he wants to have a look. I want to have a look at my offspring. She's like, no, go away. The other one hasn't come out yet. I want to surprise you with 3. And I don't quite know what's going on there, but it is quite comical. The other adult, which, as I say, I'm presuming might be a male, sort of wanders off, looking slightly embarrassed. 2:20, we've got the 3 chicks. The third one comes out of the egg. How adorable are they? They're precocial, these chicks, which means, I was going to say, they wander off, but that one sort of staggered off, very unsteady on their feet at this stage, as you can see. It's trying to walk on pebbles, which is not easy. So off they go. They start to explore their surroundings. And you can see actually fairly quickly, they get the hang of it. 7 o'clock, they're back under the adult for the night. And at that stage, what are you looking at me for?
We can't sex the oyster catchers like that. You're trying to say that it was the male that was being pushed off. She had a greater investment.
Well, I like to think it might be the female that was sitting on them, pushing the male away. But as Chris says, we don't actually know that. But anyway, so they're all under one of the adults at 7 o'clock in the evening for the night. And that's when our nest watchers got a little concerned, because remember, they had seen a fox around that area. Just after midnight, the adult gets alarmed, runs off. Keep your eye on the right corner of the screen and you see a fox. Shadow of a fox goes past. Fortunately, not that far away from the nest. Well, far enough away. And then the adult comes back in and starts to breed the chicks again. Obviously, they're very vulnerable. So we were delighted when in the morning, this morning at 5:40, we see all 3 chicks present and correct. slightly chaotic and clumsy still. But you can see just how quickly that they're getting the hang of it. They go out with the parents who are showing them how to feed on the marshes. And you can see they're sort of sucking it up like spaghetti, having their first meals. All three of them. It's great to see all three of them with the parent birds there. Exploring, and this one, watch this. Oh, face plants. It all got too much. It was either exhausted or maybe it had tried to eat too much. But as I say, a great start to tonight's programme with some good news of 3 successful hatchings